Welcome back to Chaos and Carry-Ons, the podcast where we talk about travel, marriage, and all the moments that happen somewhere between "this is so romantic" and "why did we think this was a good idea?"
And today's episode is one of Shelby's favorites. It's the anniversary trip she took with Jordan to Arizona that still gets brought up years later.
Because it had everything: red rocks, hiking, hot air balloons, and IKEA, which somehow always sneaks into every vacation.
So if you're driving, walking, or pretending you're not already planning your next trip, let's get cozy and dive in.
Chaos and carry-ons, let's go. Disney dreams in tow, you know. Every flight and every ride. Join the journey, come inside.
So we flew into Phoenix and we rented a car from the airport. I love that part of trips. The second that you leave the airport, it just feels like freedom. There's no schedules, nowhere to be, no work phone calls. That's my favorite part.
Just the two of you in the road ahead?
Exactly. From there, we drove straight to, guess where? In and Out. And then to Sedona, which already felt like a trip inside of a trip. So the drive to Sedona from Phoenix is absolutely unreal. So you start in city, which is, Phoenix is just like any other city. All of a sudden, there is this transition to red rocks and mountains and scenery that made me keep saying, stop, hold on, I got to take a picture. The cactus was unlike anything I've ever seen. It was amazing.
Yeah, I've always wanted to see it in person.
So it felt like you were entering into a different world, honestly. That's exactly how I could describe Sedona feeling. It was quiet, romantic, and just completely different from everyday life. So I had begged Jordan for years to go to Arizona. And he kept saying, what is in Arizona? Why would you want to go to Arizona? And I don't know why I wanted to go to Arizona. I don't remember one specific thing of hey, that's why I want to go there. I just really wanted to go. And every time we talked about it, people would be like, Arizona, really? They thought we were kidding. I don't remember if it was you or my sister-in-law, Kristen, when I told them, whoever it was, that we were going to Arizona for our anniversary. They literally laughed and was like, what is in Arizona? I finally convinced them to go, and he still to this day will tell people that was the best trip ever.
Well, it definitely wasn't me because that's always been on my bucket list. And I'll have to say, for this episode, it's going to feel like me reliving it for the first time because when Shelby went to Arizona, we talked about this, but I had just brought Mateo home. So I don't remember a lot of I remember you sending me pictures, but I don't remember a lot of what happened. So I'm excited.
It wasn't like vacation. It wasn't like our vacations now where
right.
If you or I go separate from each other, it doesn't matter if we're there or not. We're living this life together kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't remember any of it. I was too sleep deprived. But one of the questions that I had for you was when you saw the red rocks, how red are they in person? Because, pictures you can't really tell what it's like until you see it in person.
No, pictures don't do it justice, but I will say it's like the chert on a baseball field, that red orange. Mm-hmm. It's so bold and so bright. It is so red. It is so red. Even the sky, I don't know if it's a scientific thing. I don't know. But it's the sun shining off that. Even the sky has a red hue over it. It was very weird. So we stayed in Sedona for a couple of days and then we went back down to Phoenix. But the biggest reason why we went to Sedona the first place was to hike Devil's Bridge. I had seen pictures of this online and I knew if we're going to Arizona, we're doing it.
Which it always looks like it's not for the faint of heart. And I'm going to say that's the only thing that I said that you were crazy to do. But Shelby had been hiking before this. Let's add that in there.
We love to hike, and still we don't do it as much now because my health, I haven't been able to, but this summer I definitely plan to pick it back up. But on the Devil's Bridge, I think it was 7 miles-ish there and back, which for us in that time was nothing. That was average. That's what we were hiking when we would go on these hikes. So you hike up and suddenly you're standing on this massive rock bridge. There is nothing underneath you and nothing on either side. You're just out floating in the middle of the sky. So there's a line of people when you get up to the top. You take a photo of them. They take a photo of you, like you swap. There were like gymnastics and cheer girls out there doing cartwheels on this rock. I had to turn around backwards and not even watch them because it terrified me.
But you still got the photo?
I did. I got the photo. I held on to Jordan for dear life. Now, I will say in the pictures, and even when you're standing out there, like looking over at this rock, it looks so narrow. But when you're actually walking out on it, it's probably 4 feet wide. But I mean, 4 feet of this narrow, nothing on either side. Like, that's still terrifying. But in pictures, it looks like 1 foot. No. It was so scary, but it was so worth it. And that was like what I say was my first big girl hike, because we had to climb up these rocks to get up there. It wasn't bad going up. It was the going down when I realized, wait, I have to turn around and do this backwards to come down. And Jordan was like a little rabbit. Like, he just hopped rock, 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 rock all the way down. And he's looking up at me like, come on, come on. And I was just like, you just left me up here to die. That's how I felt. But it was awesome. We loved Sedona. So Sedona's also one of those towns where you just walk around and wonder. We went into a lot of little local shops, markets, cafes, just taking it all in.
Okay, so this is where we'll let you talk about the food that you ate and the places that you ended up going into.
So Jordan and I, when we go on vacation, have this thing where we do not like to eat places that are chain restaurants or anything that we can get at home. I don't know if that's an us thing or if that's a common thing for a lot of people. We don't like to do that. We somehow always end up at either the Cheesecake Factory or Olive Garden, and that's a running joke. But it's like, in a pinch, that's where we're going to go. But what I liked about Sedona is their food was so unique. It was like, I guess it's Southwestern. It's not Mexican, but it is Mexican. Tex-Mex maybe kind. I don't know exactly what it is. But we had so many little good mom and pop shops there. So many good little coffee shops. Everything that we did, it was so good. We had nothing that was bad there. Sedona has like this little downtown strip where it reminds you of Gatlinburg, kind of, where there's shops and restaurants on each side of the street. And it's just like this tiny little strip in the middle of the desert. That is basically Sedona. So I also want to give a shout out to my favorite little coffee shop that I found there. It was called the Roastery of Cave Creek. If you are ever in the Sedona area, I went there maybe 3 or 4 times. And every time I would tell them, like, when I go to a coffee shop that is not local to my hometown, I'll just say, surprise me. And I let the barista do my order for me. They feel so much pressure doing this, but I love it. Because I try things that I never would have ordered. One of the coffees at the Roastery of Cave Creek that I had was a lavender coffee. Never in a million years would I have ordered a lavender. Actually, it was like a lavender chai latte, I think is what it was. It was so good. It was so good. So if Arizona is on your bucket list, add the Roastery of Cave Creek to your list. Another thing that we did while we were in Sedona before we went back to Phoenix was the Chapel of the Holy Cross. And it is a church that is built into the Red Rocks. It is gorgeous, and the views from there are breathtaking. Pictures just don't do it justice. I have pictures while we were there, but it just, you just have to see it to believe it. But it was magnificent, and I highly recommend going there as well if you're ever in Sedona. After we were in Sedona, like I said, we drove back to Phoenix and stayed there for the rest of the trip, and that's where we flew home.
So this looks like it's going from Desert City energy after the peaceful Red Rocks.
Exactly. So in Phoenix, we did more shopping, more eating, more wandering. We obviously went to IKEA because we can't go anywhere without it. But the big, unforgettable moment of this trip, and this is the part of the trip that we still talk about to this day, was the hot air balloon ride.
It sounds very romantic for a anniversary trip.
Well, it started that way. Floating over the desert at sunrise was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And if you know me, you know this brought tears to my eyes. Stephanie says it all the time, like I cry more than anybody she knows. It was gorgeous.
Well, until
it was time to land. And this is where the chaos happened.
I'll be honest, who planned that? Like who decided you were going to do that?
So it was always on our bucket list.
Okay.
Before we got married, we had, like when we were dating, we had this bucket list of things that we wanted to do. Skydiving is also on there, but since having Taylor, I don't want to go skydiving anymore. Pre-kids, I absolutely would have. And I still would if it wasn't for her. But I don't know, Jordan and I are so adventurous. So hot air balloon was on the list. I don't know who had the idea, but we found this company in Phoenix that does them at sunrise. We were there. We were kid-free. It was the perfect opportunity. So there is a moment when you realize, like when we start gliding down. So you go up in this hot air balloon. You just lift off the ground and slowly go up. Okay, we're in this balloon with like maybe 8 other adults. And then the guy that's running it. So you just so gently lift off and you're floating through the air. In my mind, I'm thinking we're just gonna float down and land just so perfectly like they do in the movies. So we did this for about, I feel like we were up there maybe an hour. I mean, it was a pretty long flight. We watched the sun come up. We're going over people's backyards. Like we can see them out there in their pools, or out by the pool. And we're just floating over. Like how cool would that be to see? But then the guy says, okay, when we land, you're going to have to like squat down and get as low as you can in the basket and hold on so tight to the handle. And that's the moment when I realized we're not gracefully floating back to earth. He didn't tell us about the landing until we're actually going down. So I expected us, like I said, to just float down, but no, the entire basket we were in goes on its side. So he told everybody, hold on to the handles, sit as low as you can. Jordan misunderstood him at some point in this, and he didn't leave enough room for me to sit all the way down. So I'm like sitting on Jordan's knees. So my head is up. You know, everybody else is down inside the basket, and my head is up. Shoulders up, I'm out of the basket. And I was like half squatted, up way too high for that kind of landing. It hurt so bad, but we lived to tell about it, and I will never do it again. Ever. Never.
Well, did the man look at you like you didn't do this right?
He was yelling, get down. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't move.
Should have started recording because the cameraman never dies. So
I know, right?
that would have been a good time to start recording.
Well, I can tell you when I realized how this landing was going to go is because several balloons go up at the same time, but they all kind of just scatter, and it really depends on the direction of the wind, and like you don't really know where you're going to land until they start going down. And then he radioed the guys that have like the van that was pulling the trailer for the balloon. He radioed them to tell them like, hey, I'm going to land at like east of whatever street, blah, blah, blah. Well, we could see one balloon landing right before we did, and he would give them time to land, and then he would like make us go up to give them time to get out of the way because you can't really predict where you're going to land. Right. When I saw their basket go on the side, I looked at Jordan, and this was before the guy said that about getting down, holding on, all that. And I was just like, oh Lord. And he knew that like, it's over. She's never doing this again. But when I saw their landing, then I was just like, oh, Jesus, like this is really happening. And, you know, there's only one way down. And I mean, it's either that or jump. And I wasn't going to jump. I had a baby at home. So anyways, it was terrifying. Now the pictures are worth it. I mean, that experience, it was so worth it. And I don't regret doing it. I just won't ever do it again. But fun fact, so the company that we used, and I'm not going to say the name, there's only like 2 main companies in that area that do it. So it's one of the 2. They do Arizona. I feel like there's somewhere in Colorado maybe that they do, and then New Mexico. One of the flights about a month after ours, somebody actually died because they went down, they landed. I can't remember what happened, but there was a death. And that scared me even more. So I was glad that we did it before, because if I would have read that after, we would not have been doing it.
So did you feel like overall, let's say that somebody that's listening to this is trying to decide, like they only have a few days and they don't want to drive down to Phoenix or Sedona. How long was the drive? Did you say that?
I don't think I said it. I don't really remember, but it wasn't horrible. I want to say it was like less than a couple hours, an hour and a half maybe from Phoenix to Sedona. And the drive is beautiful. It's up and down these mountains. And when I say mountains, I don't mean like that $1 million highway where you're on the side of a mountain. I don't mean that. I mean, it's just like a mountain drive, just like here in the South, like in Tennessee. A lot of the driving in Tennessee is rolling hills and mountains. That's what it's like, except there's cactus everywhere. The drive is beautiful. It was so worth that. But now Sedona, to me, was, if I went back, I would spend more time in Sedona and less time in Phoenix.
Okay.
Just because that was like our kid-free trip. Sedona was more relaxing, and Sedona actually gives the vibes of like the High School Musical 2, where they go to that country club. And, you know, it's like Red Rock Desert. That is exactly, I don't know if that was filmed in Sedona, but I would guess it probably was, because that's what Sedona looks like.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, somebody listening to this might have been wondering, you know, where should you spend the bulk of your time? So you would say Sedona.
We love going, when we go on trips, we like staying downtown in cities. We've done many cities around Nashville. I mean, you know, we've done Louisville, we've done Cincinnati, you know, like bigger cities that are around us. We've done Atlanta several times, Chattanooga. We like doing like the downtown vibe where you have a hotel and you can walk around. We've even done that in Texas a few times. That's the vibe that we like. And that was what we were going for in Phoenix. And Phoenix did have like good shopping, good eating, and a lot of their stuff was walkable. And then we did like Old Town Scottsdale. I forgot about that. That's near Phoenix. They have like some really good malls out there. There was an amazing pancake place. It was called Butterfield's Pancake House. It was amazing. The best pancakes that I've ever had, even still to this day. So like there were lots of things to do in Phoenix. It's two, you can't really compare the two. It was two totally different trips. And that's why we kind of did both. But if I was to go back now, I would do more Sedona just because it was more laid back. Now, Sedona is a lot more expensive than Phoenix. And I think that was another factor into our half and half. But if you're going kid free and you want like laid back shopping, eating, little like small town vibes, go Sedona.
Well, in my imaginary trips, Shelby knows that sometimes I'll just plan an imaginary trip randomly some days. I have looked at Sedona and then driving up to the Grand Canyon. So you have to go back because you have to do that.
I know. And the Grand Canyon is on my list. That's something that I want to do so bad. And I probably would do that because I think it was a little further to fly into Vegas and drive down to Sedona. But we were going to do Phoenix. At this point, that's where the hot air balloon was. So we were in too deep to change it. But I think if I were to go back now, I would fly into Vegas, drive down to Sedona, and then go back. Like I would do Vegas and Sedona instead of Phoenix and Sedona.
Okay. Yeah.
So what made the Arizona trip so special wasn't just what we did. It was just that it was me and Jordan, no kids, no schedules, no responsibilities, just us being married and in love and slightly terrified in a balloon.
Well, that's what anniversary trips are really about, right?
It was one of those trips that definitely sticks with you, not because it was perfect, but because it was ours. After years of begging him to go, he finally agreed, mostly just to shut me up. He didn't think there was anything there for us to do, but now he would tell you it was one of the coolest places that we've ever been. So that is the wrap up of our Arizona anniversary trip. Red Rocks, hiking, shopping, food, floating in the sky, and a landing that will never be forgotten.
Well, it was really the perfect chaos and carry-on story.
Definitely. Because sometimes the best trips aren't the smooth ones. They're the ones you still laugh about years later.
So if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to give us a like, give us a shout out on social media, leave us a comment or a review. And as always, may your flights be on time and your luggage never lost. But if it's not, that's where the fun begins.
Pack your dreams, it's time again. The world's our map, so tell a friend. New horizons, stories spin. Season 2, let's dive back in. Theme parks glow, the stars ignite. Wishes dancing, neon light. Sail the seas and chase the breeze. Every laugh and memory. Chaos and carry-ons, let's go. Disney dreams in tow, you know. Every flight and every ride. Join the journey, come inside. Come inside. From Mickey ears to sunset hues, every port brings something new. Feel the sparkle, let it flow. Magic's calling, time to go.